Welcome, everybody. I'm Scott Patton, your host. This is Books Cafe, presented by free-ebooks.net. We're happy that you're here. Hopefully, you're going to absolutely be blown away by today's show. I have an absolutely amazing guest, and I'm so excited to be bringing him on and sharing him with you. But before we get to that, you know the process. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss anything that's going on. And free-ebooks is all about supporting authors and readers. So here it is. And just join up. You get 5 free books a month. If you join the VIP, it's unlimited books, unlimited audio books. We have our featured books that are absolutely amazing. We have books on everything. I don't think there's any possible category that you can't find here, and we've got some incredible authors that we're sharing their stories. We've got our list of best books. Immortals Requiem is awesome. If you like sci-fi, we cover ghost stories, and of course it's Booktober, and we've got a reading list for you for that. And it just goes on and on and on. We've got new arrivals coming in every day. Our editors are hard at work making sure that they are books that you would love reading. And our purpose really is to support our authors. As you know, it's very difficult to get published. A lot of the mainstream big publishing companies are all about, you've got to have a huge following and everything else. And if you put your books on free-ebooks and you get 10,000, 20,000 downloads, you can take that and leverage that with your with the publishers and actually get your books published and live in the bookstores. So that's how we support them. And of course, everybody loves to read, and wouldn't it be nice to read something different than what you get at the bookstores? Because it seems like the same authors are churning out book after book after book, and there's a lot of creativity in our world. And speaking of people that are putting out book after book after book, that's kind of a segue to our guest today, because he has a publishing arm of his company that has put out over 800 books, and he himself has written over 65 books. And I'm just so excited because he's been working on credibility. So we're going to be able to see how we can increase the credibility of our show today. So with that, I'm going to say welcome to the show, Mitchell Levy. How are you doing today?
Scott, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Awesome. So how did you get started writing? I mean, 65 books. That is really, really impressive. And you wrote them. Like, you're not like Stephen King that comes up with the idea and he has a bunch of ghostwriters writing them, right?
Well, we do have a ghostwriting process for some of our authors, and so some of the books were collaborative books.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure, although we have done some of our ghostwriting process, but it still means our brain writes. This last book I did, Credibility Nation, I had a collaborator work with me, but it is mostly coming from the interviews of interviewing 500 thought leaders. And so at the end of the day, it's like anything else you do in life. If you set a goal of what your end purpose is, and for me in particular, I'm focused on all nonfiction business, helping people succeed type books. If you have a goal of what you want to accomplish, then the book itself needs to help you get to that goal. The book is something that helps facilitate the learning, the growing, the credibility. And then some people grow and learn through reading. Some people grow and learn through either looking and watching online courses or taking courses. Some people want to go to a podcast, webcast like what you're doing here.
Right.
And, it's just, we all learn and grow differently. And a book is, to me, part of the overall strategy that if you're in business today, and I love reading, I love reading sci-fi and other books, but I'm more business focused these days. And at the end of the day, when you're writing a book, the end result is, what is it that you want to accomplish? And then you just that typically is the title of your book, and then the table of contents helps you get there. Scott, actually, I'll go as far as to say one more thing. Sorry, long question, short question, long answer. It's early in the morning. So when I work with an author, typically what happens, I ask a particular question. And the focus that I have, and when I did the 500 interviews of people on thought leaders on credibility, it's that first question I ask is probably paramount, the most important question. And it's simply, what is your CPOP? What is your customer point of pain? And when you have asked that question, that response, what you want to have coming back is 1 to 10 words. It's typically 1 to 3 seconds. It's memorable. It's shareable. Begs the question, tell me more. And so what happens during the interviews, 98% of people can't answer that question. Even after, like when we set up an interview, they're being sent a video, how to prepare. They get to look at past episodes, and you could see those and see what we've done. And past episodes, so past interviews. And what Credibility Nation is the need that came out of when I started interviewing people on credibility. I didn't actually know what the end product would be. I knew I would do a book. I just didn't know what the end product would be. And somewhere around interview, when I got closer to the end, probably interview 40, I felt comfortable understanding what credibility is and how to define it. Then when I hit interview 250, I came up with the title of the book, which is now the subtitle. And when you ask me what is my CPOP, it's humans that want to be seen as credible. And so that was originally the title of the book. And then probably about 100 interviews later, I go, there's something really important here. And then when I hit interview 475, that's when I had my life mission. And it's just simply, we don't have enough credibility in life. We don't know what the word means. We don't live it properly. The way I've defined credibility is if you're not credible, you're dubious. And so the title of the book became Credibility Nation, and my life mission now is focused on that. So I'm constantly looking for new authors, new partners, new places to play, so that what can happen over time is we build up this concept called Credibility Nation.
Nice.
So long answer. Sorry, you got me on a thread.
It must have been quite an experience talking with 500 experts on all the different things that you talked to them about.
It was what got me here was simply when I started working on the concept of a done-for-you publishing company, because what happens with many people is they start writing the book, but they don't get to the end. And for nonfiction books, particularly for nonfiction authors, where the book is not the end product is they want to provide more value. They want to provide more service, whether it's online course or consulting or speaking or whatever that is. And so we have an arm of our company where we do the ghostwriting. Ghostwriting doesn't mean that we have somebody else who comes up with the concepts. I do a 3-hour interview to pull the genius out of somebody's head, and then we write. So when I started that part of the business, which was 2018, is I built a school where we put graduates through where they could learn how to do this. I realized when around the beginning of 2019, I need to change my title. So I got branded, and I went to a branding exercise, and I came up with the title Global Credibility Expert. I've been in Silicon Valley for 35 years. I've started over 20 companies. I sat on the board of a public firm, lots of fun stuff. And there's a litany of stuff you could see in my bio of stuff I've done. None of that's important. What's important is, who am I today and how do I show up in the world? And I woke up one morning. Now I'm going to answer. So it took me 2 minutes to get to your question. So I woke up one morning. I thought Napoleon Hill, 500 millionaires think and grow rich. Mitchell Levy, 500 thought leaders, interviewed on credibility, and I didn't know the title of my book. And I would have to tell you, Scott, that journey was so amazingly crazy. And I also want to say beautiful.
Absolutely.
So can I tell you a couple crazy things?
Yes, share some things that really stood out for you.
So I got to tell you a couple of things that are shocking to me. So I didn't realize when I first started interviewing people that I needed to keep track of when people came to the interview. Like I just thought I have an interview. We actually went live as part of the interview process, having a little bit of something that would cause just a teeny bit of nervousness kept people on their toes. And in that first set of interviews, people came late. We had a couple of people didn't show. It turns out of the 500 interviews, 2% of people were just no shows and didn't follow through.
Wow.
Lack of integrity. I know lack of integrity, but let me wait. If that was a wow, are you ready? This is worse. 23% of the people came late. Now I define late as so coming early is 10 minutes or before. Coming on time is between 9 minutes and 4 minutes. But you know this, Scott. If you're doing a live show and somebody comes at the 4-minute mark or the 3-minute mark, you know, as a host, you're panicked. Like, is my guest showing up? Like, and so late is between 3 minutes and 0. And I used to call it super late, between so after the hour, and not just call it rude. So right. 23% of the 500 came late, 4% of which came after the hour. So if you're listening to this, you're watching this, here's what I need you to ask yourself this question. You're being interviewed by the global credibility expert on your credibility, and you think it's credible to come after the hour for a live show.
Right.
like I put my hands in the air and go, huh? How do people do that?
That's that is so important, Mitchell. I do 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 live streams a week on different topics, and I no longer schedule the live stream at the top of the hour. I schedule it either 5 minutes after or 10 minutes after, because what I discovered was everybody showed up at 11 if it was supposed to be at 11. But you can never start at 11 when someone shows up at 11. The process is you've got to warm up a little bit. You've got to chat a little bit. They're going to have questions, right? Like, what do I do? Do I look good? Is my hair right? Like, is the background okay? Should I move this? And they would be doing all these things. Like, we have to go live now, but I'm not ready. Well, yeah, I've been here, like you said, 10 minutes early, and I'm ready, but and it just blew my mind. So I just, for all of my clients and myself, it's either like 11:05 or 11:10, because and we would tell them. It wasn't like we didn't tell them, show up at 10:50. We would, but they think the live stream is at 11. And of course, we always, I think it's I don't know, is it ingrained that you start at the top of the hour? Because when we went to school, math started at 9 and science started at 10. So you got to the classroom and then the teacher started, right? But that doesn't work when you're doing a live stream, because you have to, we're social people. We need to talk. So I found that worked out really good. And the thing with Facebook is, if you say you're going live at 11 and you're not live by 10 after 11, they delete you. Just put you gone. Okay? So there's this like drop dead time when you have to push the live button or you're not going live, right? But it just blew my mind how, people were not. It's such a great opportunity to do a deep dive into your area of expertise. And maybe there's one person watching live, but there could be 500 people watching you over the next 6 months. And one of my YouTube mentors once said, people focus too much on, is there 10,000 views or is there, 20 views? You really only need one view, and that's the person that wants to be your customer, your client, or whatever, right? And I thought that's such a
Warren Whitlock said that we would truly enjoy each other. And I'm just sitting here absorbing and eating up your words because they are so yummy.
Oh, thank you.
So, yeah, it's I think, but there's so many things you said that I could also help unpack. What you said is we've been taught wrong. And the answer is yes. So I came up in the book here.
Show us the book. Show us the book.
So it's Credibility Nation. And specifically, so by the way, when I first titled it, it was for humans that want to be seen as credible. And I go, man, that's a really big audience. All right, let's chop that in half for professionals who want to be seen as credible. So as you can tell, there'll be many sequels of this asset.
Right.
And what happened around interview 475 is I recognized the need, the calling. I recognized what I believe I've been told to do for a long time. And I've been looking for, Scott, I've been looking for that person. I've been looking for that group where when you're part of it, the people who are your peers, you just shake their hand, you do a deal, and they do exactly what they say. If you say come 10 minutes early, they come 10 minutes early. If you say, here's a deal, like, hey, I'm going to put all my books on your site, or those books that make sense. Or if you say, hey, let's do a column together, or let's do a newsletter, like we actually do it, right? I want that world. And that level of authenticity, vulnerability, integrity, the types of things that make up the word credibility doesn't exist. So that is now what Credibility Nation is. It is a membership community. And the focus is to bring credibility to the world. And one of the things by the way, I got somebody give me a hard time because apparently I have more appendices in my books than chapters. So one of my friends gave me a hard time. But this is now the definition of early, on time, late, and rude. Right? And this is definition. You could apply it to business meetings, although it's not as strict, but certainly for live shows. This is a reasonable definition. And since we're here and we're showing pictures, although I think we decided when I printed, I think this is too small. Let me show the picture on my wall instead. So this is in the book, but I realized once it's printed, we need to fix it. This is the updated definition of credibility. When you look in the dictionary today, credibility is just known as being trustworthy. That's the definition of credibility. What I want to say, it has these other two components, being known and being likable. And then each of these have 4 elements associated with it. So pick up, we'll put, you can pick up Credibility Nation at Amazon. I'll definitely put that into this site because it makes sense. What happens is we have to recognize the importance. We need to be taught on what does it mean to be credible. It's really, Scott, it's no different than probably your mom or your grandma told you when you were young. And then all of a sudden we entered school, we entered life, and people didn't practice. It's just being, honestly, it's being human. And to me, being human is if somebody needs help, you help them. If somebody has their hands full, and this is ignoring
COVID. For the lady that's got 4 bags of groceries at her boat.
Yeah, and she doesn't have to worry about you taking advantage, and you don't have to worry about being seen the wrong way. Here's the funnest part, and I say this as part of the book, and then I'll let you unpack if we have any time left. So, what happens is if you can truly show up credibly, what that means is you're showing your heart. You're coming early. You're being prepared. You're showing your heart. You're seeing me right now. You see me. You feel my energy. And in these half-hour interviews, my job was to bring out the best of the human I was interacting with. My job was to bring out their customer point of pain. Because if in mine, once again, humans that want to be seen as credible, if my job is to bring out the best of other people, and then I do that in each and every interaction I have. And specifically when I'm interviewing other people, if I bring out their best, I've had so many people tell me, Mitchell, in 4 minutes or 5 minutes, you've helped clarify what I do for the rest of my life. I mean, I've got 420 plus video testimonials that are like these rocking testimonials. It's not me.
Right.
I have a process that we weren't taught in school. And so when you do that and people see each other and you get to know, like, respect, admire, you can, in a half-hour interview, in a half-hour conversation, get to love somebody else. And how cool
That's
would
a
it be?
beautiful thing.
Yeah. How
That is a
cool would it
beautiful
be if when you interact with somebody and you just know this person, we resonate, and at the end of a half hour, you could look at them and say, I love you. And you mean nothing more than to say, I see you, I feel you, I want to help you. And they feel the same way. And there's no hidden implication. There's none of the silly stuff that we have in the world. If we can do that, and so of the 500, I had, I don't know, 4 or 5, not a lot, but I have to tell you, it was pretty amazing when at the end I so resonated with somebody. Either I'd say it first or they'd say it first. I'm like, man, that's so cool. I want more of these. This is like one of those, it's sort of like Scrooged, where Bill Murray at the end of the movie talked about how beautiful it is if you just acted like you did at Christmas time, but every day of the year.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yes, indeed.
You reminded me of advice my dad gave me when I had my first job. I was a grocery clerk and bagging groceries, and he said, show up 15 minutes early every shift. And what I recognized was a lot of people showed up late. And so when you're there, people say, 90% of success is just showing up. And it was like when it came time to who is the head part-time clerk, they picked me because I was always there, and I would stay late if they needed me to stay late. And it was just so amazing how, because I'm just thinking now, like the live streams and what we talked about in terms of time. It's just like, show up early, stay late, and put your best foot forward. And a lot of things just happen because of that. It's pretty
let me add to your dad's thoughts, because I actually absolutely love that. It was my first interview when I had done 100 interviews, and I went on a podcast, JV Crumb's podcast. He says, Mitchell, what should we call this? What have you learned so far? And what I said was, it took me a while. I mean, this didn't come off the top of my head, but we went back and forth about 10, 15 minutes. And I said, show up when you show up. And now I have to define that as you're taking your dad's comments into consideration. Come early, come prepared, and come with your heart. And if you could do nothing more in life and in business, is showing up when you show up. Like we have all these things that can distract us. But
yeah, when you were talking, show up early. So we're meeting for coffee at Starbucks. Be there early. If we're both there early, great. Be authentic, be present, which means take your friggin' phone and put it away. Don't have it on vibrate, don't have it on ring, and be there. Because I went into Starbucks once, it was a Saturday morning, and there was a dad with 2 kids under 10. And I just glance over and I see them and I think, what a nice thing, Dad, that's such family time, right? I took a second look. The 2 kids were on iPad minis and the dad was on his phone. And I just thought, you are ruining. And because that's the same thing as like when school taught you at 9 o'clock, you've got math, is we're not taught how to communicate with our family, right? And we're taught how to, it's so funny because the best way we can communicate now for so many people is they're in the same room and they text each other and they're laughing and texting.
You've seen people do that.
It's like, no. So we're getting close to the end of our time together, Mitchell, and I wanted to ask you, for authors and particularly people that want to write a book, what is some of your advice? And before you answer that, the one thing that I've got out of what you've taught us so far and shared with us so far, and I'm so grateful for it, was when you didn't know the mission, you didn't know you had a goal, but then around 400, and I think it was 70, you said, this thing just became really, really clear. And to me, part of going through life is just taking your steps. I say it's like, I like to hike in the woods. and you're hiking in the woods and the path veers to one side, you can't see where it goes, or it goes over a hill. You don't know what's going to happen until you get to the top of the hill and you can see the rest of the path. Could be a bear there, could be a river there, could be a nice meadow full of wildflowers there. You just don't know. And it just struck me that as we go through the process of writing, it's a process of self-discovery as much as it is a process of sharing something. And that really struck me as an important aspect of it. So having said all that, what's some advice that you would give to a new author?
Yeah, it's a great, so there's this new me that started with the birth of Credibility Nation, which is like a week old now. And so now it's like all these pat answers that I used to give. Well, not that's not relevant anymore. Let's talk about this question right now at this point. And what was going through my head, and so this is the first time I'm saying it, and I don't know if it's 100% formulated, so I'll put it out there.
Right.
Is you write for, let's just say, 2 reasons. And to me, by the way, work equals play. So there is not a business side of you. There's just, if you're working and you're having fun, it happens to be play. So you write for 2 reasons. 1, it's a hobby. Or 2, you're doing it because it will help you with your play or help you with your work. I personally focus on people who want to use it because the book is an asset to bring them to the next level. Because everyone has a camera and everyone has a microphone, we now have democratized the ability for an author to be an author, for a Podstar cast to be a Podstar cast, for somebody who runs their own channel to run their own channel. So what people make a mistake of thinking about is, I want to get millions of fans and do blah, blah, blah. The answer is, what is your purpose in life? What is it that you want to solve? What do you want to communicate? Whether it's fiction or nonfiction, what do you want to get done? And so what is that customer point of pain? And that's not a negative thing. Or you could say CPOP, customer point of pleasure. What is that thing you're solving? And then probably the most important thing is when you're done writing, that's only 10%, if that much, of the success of your book. 90% of the success of this asset called a book is, what do you do with it once it's done? So where do you show up to share, to let people know about it? This site, your site, what you do is a beautiful location. If somebody's goal is to have 10,000 people read their book and they could just put it here and make that happen, great. What's next? Right? And that's the piece to be thinking about, is the book is a component of the strategy to reach a audience, to help them be entertained, to learn, to grow, to do something new. And what I guess the biggest thing I'd like to think about is not just what people get, they get stuck like, oh my God, I got to finish a book. It's got to be perfect. No, just finish the book, because it is one step on the path for you to communicate really who you are and how you serve others. And maybe that makes the writer's block go away, because it doesn't have to be perfect on day one. For instance, I could tell you in my book, this image I showed you, this image looks great when it's on a piece of paper like this. If you get the physical book today, you're going to need a magnifying glass to look at it here. I mean, you could see it. Right. I mean, you can see it. Oh, by the way, we also put QR codes. This goes to a video of me talking about this section. But you can see it here. But I'm like, as soon as I got the book, I'm like, because everything was last minute, I'm like, oh my God, we need to fix the image. So, right. It just, and by the way, that's part of being credible, is being vulnerable. I'm okay saying that. I did it. At the end of the day, I'm both the publisher and the author. So it's, no matter who on my team did, whatever they did, it's still me, my fault, right? And that's okay. So
it is. Well, if it had to be perfect, we would never have it. We would never publish anything.
Yeah. So here's the thing: make sure you want to know who you're communicating to, who's your audience, and recognize that the book is one piece of the bigger strategy. And then, if you're getting stuck in your book, just put it out there. And then, what if you stopped your book and you didn't write the last chapter? And you say, hey, by the way, come to this site and give me comments on what the last chapter should be. Great.
Yeah, because we are in such an interactive world, and writing tends to be very solitary, but that doesn't mean you can't share. I know some other authors who they shared their chapters as they wrote them. They got feedback, people were upset when they killed off the character that they loved, and they just had this whole, and of course you create this whole community, and it's wonderful because it's world built. Well, in the fiction world, it's world building, and you don't have to build it all by yourself.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, awesome. Well, the time has flown by, Mitchell, like way too fast. You have to come back.
I would love to
spend some more time with us. Let's talk a little bit about you. You have something, of course, it's free books, so generally we like to have something free for our audience, and you have something. So tell us a little bit about it.
What happened when I was interviewing these people is remember I talked about we occasionally would say I love you, is I get to know somebody really well. And deep down, there are a lot of really beautiful humans. I mean, just beautiful people in terms of who they are and how they serve. And what happened before I would do the interview, I'd look at how they presented themselves on LinkedIn, how they presented themselves on social media, on their websites. And I just call that asynchronous communications. The synchronous communication is the interview. And in the synchronous world, I get to know them and really appreciate them. And then I'd look back at how they presented themselves asynchronously, and it sucked. So 80% of the people did not present themselves as well asynchronously as they did synchronously. You've heard people say, hey, get me in front of people and I talk to them and then we can close a deal or whatever that is, right? And so what I ended up doing is building a course. It's a course on LinkedIn, and it's a 1 hour course. It's a couple hours of content, but 1 hour to get done. And it completely changes how you look at yourself from a credibility perspective for your LinkedIn profile. And so I've got amazing feedback from that. And I thought, well, let's just do something that's free. So that's a paid for course. I have a 25-minute course that I put out there. It's a subset of what we do in the larger course. And it's not a really large course. In that 25 minutes, you're going to get 2 or 3 tips on what you need to do immediately. So there's a 25-minute free course on how to put credibility in your LinkedIn profile. And it's just simply because if you don't show up well on LinkedIn and on social media, people may not want to get to the next step. And so you have to show up credibly, whatever that means for what you do.
Right. Absolutely. So we have put the link here, and it is in the comments for pretty much all of the places that we're live streaming.
Beautiful.
Yep. So head over there and take the course, get the book. Let me just show it one more time. I'm going to be getting it because I just think the information you've got in that book is crucial for everybody. And even if you're just a beginning author, how can you get, so here's my last question. You've published over 800 books, Mitchell. How do you decide? I don't know, maybe you've only had 800 authors approach you, but if you've had 1,600 authors, how did you pick? How did you, so from the author's point of view, what do they need to present to you that gives them credibility and makes you say, yeah, we got to publish this book?
Ooh, as soon as you were asking that question, an answer came into fruition. And then when you fine tune that question, I'm like, yep, I got it. It's something I've never said before. So thank you for that.
It's new stuff.
Yeah, thank you for my aha moment. Let me give one word first, and then I'll explain it. Alignment. So alignment, and remember, we're doing. I've experimented with fiction books. I've never figured out how to make money, so we typically don't. And once again, I'll never say never or ever. So we typically don't. In the past, I've not made a lot of money on fiction books, except for 1 or 2. what happens is when somebody comes to me and they tell me what their customer point of pain, i.e., what is their CPOP, how do they serve, and then they have a book that reinforces how they serve, those are people I'm very interested in. That's the alignment, because it's the book itself isn't the answer. It's what they're going to do with it with an asset. That's really the appropriate answer. And so that's a beautiful, I like that alignment word. I thank you for putting that in my head.
My pleasure. That's a wonderful answer. Well, Mitchell, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you. I really appreciate our connections, and I'm looking forward to having you back on the show and doing a bunch of different things with you. I think you're amazing. Your book is amazing, and I want to encourage everybody to head over to Credibility Nation and also head over to Amazon, get the book, and I think it'll just make a huge difference in everybody's life. So thank you for joining us.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. Hey, do you want to put that link up for 1 second? I'll tell you, every time I can never spell credibility, like, because there's the I's and the L's. And every time, because the only time I know if I got it right or wrong is the spell check when I'm writing. So immediately when you put it up there, I look down there, wait, are the I's and the L's there properly? I'm like, yep, great, good job. It's just, I don't know, it's one of those funny things, but I want you to join me on this mission. If you're just listening to this and you resonated with this talk, if you think about the world and you think about the world that we're leaving, not just today for this generation of kids, but when they get married and they have kids and your grandkids and their kids, we have made, it's sort of like that second movie in Back to the Future. We have made a world that is just yucky. That's the best way I could say it. It's completely full of dubious individuals and dubious interactions, and that's acceptable. And that's not, in my mind, acceptable. And so come over to Credibility Nation if this resonates with you in any way, and let's figure out how to tip the scale between Credibility Nation and Dubious Nation.
Awesome. A great way to wrap it up. Thank you, Mitchell.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you being with us. Appreciate your comments. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. And we're here every week at 10 o'clock Eastern. I happen to be in Central Time. That's why I had to take a quick look at my clock. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now.